Good morning, day 23. It's Tuesday. I don't know where, I don't know how this has happened. I don't know how I'm here, but I'm sure everybody feels exactly the same way. Excuse me. So I'm definitely over the flu. The flu fog has completely gone, but it has left me with this cough that's just hanging around, and quite a horrible earache, which is not too much fun. But hey ho, it's very nearly Christmas and I'm just gonna crack on. So today I'm up nice and early because I've got to go to the hairdressers and get this lovely mop sorted out. So I'm gonna nip to the hairdressers and then I'm gonna meet Mr. Sparkles in town to do some last minute Christmas bits and pieces. Here's Mr. Sparkles. We have just woken up Joe with a nice cup of tea, because that's a nice way to wake up, because we have got our Christmas Ocado shop coming today and we need to make sure he's awake, so when the doorbell rings he does actually open the door and let the shopping in. And I thought while I was here, very quickly I would open number 23 of Andrea's advent calendar. There's only one more left, 23, 24, and then all of the presents have been opened. Ooh. Oh, I have been wanting one of these for a really long time. How cool is that? It's a little needle keeper pin cushion. Oh, I'm gonna have to have a word with Andrea where she sources these things, because I've been trying to find these for ages. These are absolutely brilliant. So you've got all the different types of needles, the different weights of needles, and then you just pop it in so you know what needle it is. And then if you want to reuse it, if you haven't had your full 8 hours out of it, you can reuse it again. That is really, really handy. I will look forward, I will be popping that down in the Sparky studio, and then people can use that for spare needles. So yes, today is Tuesday. I am going to try my absolute very best to get a tutorial out for you today. As I said, I'm going to go and get my hair done, go into town, get all the bits of Christmas, last minute Christmas bits done, and then if I have time, I will film your tutorial. So we will see. It will be a surprise to you and me. See you in a bit. So I'm back from my hairdo and I've done a little bit of Christmas shopping. So I thought I'd spend the afternoon with you and do a little Tuesday tutorial. And as tomorrow is Christmas Eve, I thought I'd do something that you can make quickly on Christmas Eve for a very quick and speedy gift. So I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas stocking. It's not any old Christmas stocking. It is a ruffled Christmas stocking, which is all the rage. I'll put a picture up of one that I found in one of our local kind of crafty shops. And it was £34. So this one's going to be made for a lot less. So what you need is some Christmassy fabric. I've gone for this red gingham because this seems to be all the rage at the moment, but you can do any kind of Christmassy fabric that you like. I've gone for a basic stocking shape. I've actually done this on the size of a Christmas present I want to put in it. You can do any size that you like. There's lots of Christmas tree templates that you can download online. All you need to know is the measurement of this top bit here. So the top bit of mine measures 15 centimeters. So you need another strip of fabric that is 45 centimeters. So basically you double this and then add it on again, half again. So you basically treble this length, and that will give you your ruffle piece. And then I've got another small piece that's 12 centimeters by 8 centimeters. And this is for your tag. And basically all you do is you fold that in half, fold it in half again, and then that gives you your tag for your stocking. So this is your ruffle. And then you get your stocking template. You can either draw your own or you can download one online. As I can see, basically mine is the same length this way as it is this way, and then I've just made it into a stocking shape. As I said, it's just this measurement that you need. and you need 2 pairs of fabric. So you need a pair for your outer and a pair for your lining. And the way that you ensure that you get a pair is if you fold your fabric so they're right sides together and then put the template on and cut them out, you will have a pair. And again, you can do it in different fabrics if you wish. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to get our 2 pairs. We need to have them right sides together, and we need to sew all the way around, but not sewing at the top. So we're going to do a backing stitch here. We're going to sew all the way around and up to the top on one, and on the other one, which is the lining fabric, we're going to leave a gap along the long side, about a 5 to 6 centimetre gap. Okay, so I have set up my sewing machine. I've got a new needle in there. I've just got some plain white thread. I'm going to set my machine length to a standard length. So I'm going to set it to 2.6 because that's the length that I like to use. I'm going to pop my stocking under my machine, and I'm going to be using a 1 centimetre or 10mm seam allowance all the way around. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way around, not stopping until I get to the other top. Okay, so once you've done one, you need to do the other one, and on the second one you need to leave a little gap. And then what I like to do is I like to use some pinking shears, and I like to trim all the way around my stocking, paying close attention to the curves. Now obviously you can just clip into the curves if you don't have any pinking shears. I just find that this is nice and quick and it does the job. So you want to do that, you want to clip all the way around the curves, and you can trim the straighter bits, but do not cut where you're leaving the gap for the lining. Leave that uncut, and if you want to, you can just press that seam open with an iron and it will make it easier when you are popping them into each other. So once you've done that, what you want to do is you want to get your ruffle piece. What you want to do next is you want to get your ruffle. Now your ruffle is 45 centimetres long by 8 centimetres wide, and the first thing you want to do is want to get the 2 short ends and line them up and sew 1 centimetre seam allowance. I'm going to do that now. Once you've done that, you want to open up that seam allowance, and this is the cuff now, the cuff or the ruffle for the top of your stocking. So once you've opened up that seam allowance, then you want to make that match, so fold it over. So you're basically folding your cuff in half, and then you might find it easier now to get a few clips and clip that in place. I'm going to grab my clips. I seem to have put them as far away as I physically can, which is not very helpful. And then clip that in place, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use some gathering stitches. So we're going to gather the open end of the ruffle, because what needs to happen is we need to make this big circle fit this cuff, and at the moment it's far too big, so we need to use some gathering stitches to gather it in. Now you can do the gathering stitches on the sewing machine, so you basically set your sewing machine to the longest stitch and then you do 2 rows of stitches, leaving the long ends, so make sure that you leave the long ends, and do 2 rows of stitches and then pull them to gather them. Or if, like me, you don't always get the evenest gather that you can on the sewing machine, you can do it by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a hand sewing needle, I'm going to tie a knot in the end, and I'm just going to do some long stitches all the way around so that when I pull it, it gathers them up. So I've got my ruffle, I've got the open ends up, and I'm just using, I've got a hand sewing needle, and I'm just using nice long stitches to do a big long running stitch on the stocking. It takes a little bit longer to do it and show you than it does in real time, so obviously to show you it takes a little bit longer, so I'm just going to speed this up a little bit for you. Now, a little bit of a tip for you is that you might want to use a thread that you can see easily, because you might want to remove these gathering stitches, or if, like me, you just want to use something that can't be seen, and then you can just leave the gathering stitches in. But if you're giving it as a gift, it might be nice to make it as neat as you can. So you just keep going, and can you see as I'm sewing, this cuff naturally wants to gather up. As I said, if you prefer to gather on the sewing machine, then you go for it. It's entirely, it's personal preference. For me, for a cuff, I like to do it with hand sewing because I find I've got more control on how big it's going to end up when I put it over the stocking at the end. Well, in a minute, not at the end. Right, so there we are, we're pretty much there. So what you want to do now is you want to get your main stocking, so this is the one that's going to be on the outside, and you want to turn it now so it's the right way out, and then we're going to pin this cuff around the top of the outside stocking. Now you can see that I've got what looks a little bit like a scrunchie, but it means that because I've done the hand stitching, I can pull it to make it bigger and smaller, which makes it nice and easy. So I'm just going to pop my hand sewing needle out of the way. I'm going to pull this here, and I'm going to pop my cuff over the top of my stocking. And what I like to use the seam that we made by sewing the cuff together. I'm doing this, putting that on the seam of the stocking, just makes it nice and neat. And then we're going to pin or clip all the way around. You might want to pull your ruffling stitches until you're happy with them. So I'm just going to give them a little tug on here. And that's why sometimes if you want, it's sometimes better to do it in a different colour, because then you can see them more easily. Now I'm doing this very quickly. If you want to take your time, you can make sure that your gathers are all nice and even. But as you can see, I've done it nice and quickly. If you want your stocking to have like a really luxurious ruffle, like a big, thick, juicy ruffle, then just make your ruffle bigger. So rather than doing it 1.5, you could just double it, and that would give you a bit more juicy ruffle. But there you go, there's mine. So what you need to do now is you need to sew your tag that you're going to put in. So I've got my tag piece, which is 8 centimeters by 12 centimeters. And then I'm going to fold it in half into itself and then into quarters. And then I'm going to stitch along this side and this side. So I'm going to do that now. Again, just on the stitch that we had before, so 2.6 along one side and then along the other side. As you can see, I'm doing this ever so quickly. It doesn't take long to do at all. And then you want to put that little tag where we lined up the seam. Like so. And use another clip. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew all the way around that edge. Pop you down so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm popping this over my machine, taking my clips away, making sure that everything is lined up. So I've got the ruffle and the top of the stocking all lined up. And then just sew all the way around till you get back to the beginning again. Make sure that you push your tab down so it's laying nice and flat when you sew it, because you don't want it pointing in a funny direction. So now you've got two stockings. You've got one with your little ruffle on and your tag, and you've got your other one, which is your lining with your hole in your lining. So what you want to do now is you'll want to pop this one inside the lining one. So I'm just going to fold the outer one up. I'm going to pop it inside the lining. Inside. Just pop it all inside. And you've got the hole in the lining, so that might make it easier if you need to line everything up. And then you'll want to use the seams again to line up the seams. And then you want to bring the top edges of everything together. Pin it. And then sew with the 1 centimetre seam allowance again. I'm just going to pin mine and I'll meet you back here. Sorry, I didn't film that bit when I pinned, but I have sewn all the way around the top. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my hole in the lining, pull out my main stocking, take out the foot of the lining because you kind of need to put that all in place. And trim off any little edges that you've got. You can then fold in the edge of the lining and you can just do a little edge stitch. You can either do that by hand, or I'm just going to go nice and close to the edge with the sewing machine. Pop it inside. I'll do that later. You don't need to wait for me. It's nearly Christmas Eve. You want to get your stockings done, don't you? So pop that all inside. Take it to the ironing board, give it a quick little press. Fold it round. And then for a nice neat finish, you might want to top stitch around the edge. So I've given her a little press and I've top stitched around the edge, and there she is all ready for her gift. And it's ready to hang the stocking, ready for Christmas. I hope you enjoyed that super quick tutorial. I will be doing another one soon, and I'll do one on my blog, on my website, with some written instructions and maybe a template ready for next year. But yeah, if you just need something quick and simple, I keep finding little threads, quick and simple, a little ruffled stocking that is all the trend. Here it is. Okay, I will see you tomorrow for the last day of Vlogmas, day 24. Keep sparkling. See you really soon. Bye for now.